You're listening to Biz-Souls, the business podcast with an edge, hosted by me, Rona and Jeffrey Hansler. Tune in for perspectives and discoveries about the changing world of business. It's time to connect to the heart, soul, and humor of how business gets done. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Biz-Souls, or Biz-Souls. Biz-Souls. It's hard.
Is that your subconscious thinking?
Biz-Souls?
Biz-Soul. Biz-Soul. Just
Biz-Soul.
one.
Biz-Souls?
This will
Okay.
soon be a solo podcast. Okay.
Now that we got the name down, what's my name? I'm Rona Lewis.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler, and we get to the heart and soul of business and the people that make it happen. And today it's just us.
Great. Actually, we talk about this subject all the time. We're talking about emotional intelligence and how very often it goes away during difficult conversations.
Absolutely. Not that I've...
Well, we both...
Rona had an acquaintance come over the other day and, brought up a subject that...
You were a little touchy on.
I'm very touchy on this subject. Anyway, so the idea was because I know how to read different cues, body language, how somebody asks a question and then throws in some contempt look, and you see all that.
Kind of like I'm doing now.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway,
Contempt?
I felt jacked up inside, so I actually
Well, that's just because you also had an earlier conversation that did not go well. So I think that exacerbated it.
Well, yeah, two differences of opinions. Yeah. No, I thought it was the same conversation. It just blended into the others.
No, because the one in the morning was
really?
with a male.
Right.
And
that earlier conversation
yes.
was somebody totally different. Yeah. Well, I did. Yeah, I did.
So you had two conversations.
I did.
That did not go well, which says a lot about you.
Well, this guy's coming out with this great thing, and I think it's going to be revolutionary, possibly revolutionary. And we just disagreed on a program that we were doing together.
Well, you guys disagreed on an approach.
On the approach, yes. Well, and the motive, and what made it hard is couldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
I kept trying to bring it up. So obviously he was very close to it. Yeah, he was very close to the subject, and he's very opinionated.
Well, it's his baby, so
it is. So and again, I was much better at that one because I didn't feel, I felt okay. I'm trying to help on this one, whereas the other one, I was probably a little reactive with it.
Probably.
So that brought up the idea.
Yes, and
to talk about in the heat of the motion, emotional intelligence.
Yes, and so and we all have varying degrees of it. I think I have a story about that. I do. I not that long ago, actually, I had dealings with let's say a fairly good mid-size company, and I worked for them for a few months, and they kind of owed me a decent chunk of change.
Okay.
And the HR people and stuff, they were trying to get me paid. And let's just say upper management, probably the upperist, did not want to because they, sometimes you have trickle down that they didn't think they needed me because it's play and they just didn't get it. And so they ended up not paying me for a while, and it went back and forth, and lawyers got involved, and I really had to take a step back and take a breath, as well as at the time talk to my next door neighbor who is a lawyer saying, this is going on. What do I do? And he said, the first thing you do is breathe. Because once you get emotions involved, which is true, you don't want to exacerbate the emotions because then you can't think at all. You have that amygdala hijack that I think Daniel Goleman is.
Correct.
It's like just don't even. And
no, the amygdala hijack way before Goleman, I think.
Well, he made it popular. Let's put it that way. And so anyway, we digress. Anyway, we can Google it. You'll let us know. So I'm a New Yorker, and I will never start a fight. And I will never back away from one. And I am nothing, as you know, if not tenacious.
You are tenacious.
I'm incredibly tenacious, especially when it comes to justice and being right and et cetera, et cetera. And
somebody slammed into her car and he was being
a jerk.
And he owned up. No, he said, yeah, I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it. And it was just delay, and it had to go to court.
And that's a totally different story than what I'm telling right now.
Oh, it is?
Yes,
I thought you were talking about the law.
Well, I am, and...
I'm sorry.
Okay, anyway, so that was a different story. That was another example of my tenacity.
She was just really
Bottom
good.
line is, I dealt with the lawyers, and they kept... And what I did was, I did a little critical thinking. I asked a bunch of questions. I wrote them down first, which I got from you. You always said, ask the question, know what you're going to ask so you can be, and lawyers do that. They know the answers to the questions before they even ask them. And so, I had the questions open, and what I did from what I do, I went in with a childlike mindset. I was curious as opposed to, and this is my little quote that I always say, be curious, not condemning.
Right.
You may quote me. And so by doing that, it allowed the conversation it wasn't one note, and it didn't get emotional and get bigger and bigger. Bottom line was, it took almost a year, and they really thought I was going to give up and go away. And I did not. Just like with the car crash, the car crash took over a year. And I got my money with the car crash, and I got my money with the company. And HR wanted to keep working with me, and the higher ups were embarrassed by it.
Absolutely. So to recap, breathe in the moment.
Breathe
in the moment, and then take a step back.
Don't let your emotions. Emotional intelligence is being aware of your emotions as well as other people's, and how yours affects theirs. So if you allow yourself to go in with an open mind, as opposed to you can feel your feelings, just don't show them.
Right.
So and then don't give up.
And then be tenacious. And keep your cool. And pre-plan, call things like that by writing questions down or comments down.
And then have a range of what's acceptable for you. The guy that paid me for the car, he was trying to, work a deal.
Right.
And at first it was like almost $1,000 difference. And I was like, you got to be crazy. And he was making excuse after excuse. And I was like, you know what? And this is what I thought to myself. He needs to feel like he won something.
Right.
So I think after all this, it was like $150 difference. I was like, you know what? Fine. I will take it. And we will never speak of this again, as long as you pay me within 48 hours, either by a certified check or Venmo. And he paid me Venmo. And it was worth it. It was worth it.
That's very smart. That's good. Rational.
Yeah.
Maybe a little compromise,
It's the 80-20 rule. What can you live with?
Right.
Versus what's a deal breaker.
And you also want to focus your life on something else.
Oh my God. Yeah. It was basically it wasn't worth the money in terms of because it was just a couple of grand.
Right.
And at the same time, he was not getting away with it.
Right.
He was, I told you stories, and he was just a jerk. And,
so was he, now switching it, was he, because I remember some of your side of the conversation. Mm-hmm. Did he keep his cool at all times? Did he ever lose his cool?
Well, he played the victim a lot. Like the day before we went to court, because yes, I ended up suing him. He called me and gave me one excuse after another. And I'm like, I'm going. You can be there or not, because how convenient. Right before, and he actually did it twice. The day before, I was like, do I look like an idiot? Maybe, but I'm not, and I'm not.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, I know you had to go to court, and it was down here because he'd hit you on your way down here.
Yeah.
And you would come here after court, and you were always calm as a cucumber. You were always just. Yeah, I went to court. This is what happened. This is what, it's like you had it in a slot.
Well, yes, I knew I was right. And the fact that I told the judge I was here giving a talk to the city of Newport Beach, for the people who work for the city of Newport Beach was, it's like I wasn't just here twiddling my my
Right.
thumbs. I work with governments of different
Right.
cities, and I think that actually made a difference
Oh, what you mean in you or in him or?
in what the judge's point of view.
Okay.
I think it
Okay,
was a
very good.
little feather in my cap there.
Good.
So, do you have stories?
Well, no, the only ones
just those
I've got
two?
are the recent ones, and to tell you the truth, I don't bounce that well,
Yeah.
on stuff. I had to extricate myself from the situation,
Yes, yeah.
and I was very polite, and it was great. Talk with them for a little while, not on that, not their approach on that
yes,
subject.
Yes, and we also learn as we get to know people, and it's hard when you first get to know people. You're better at it than I am because you're much better at reading body language and things like that. What things to bring up? And,
Right, it's like
and what
seeing
not
all
to.
the signals and going,
Right.
and I'm still not used to that.
Yeah,
Still not
and
used to that.
and so what do you think body language has to do with emotional intelligence?
Well, what does it have to do? I think
We
that's
hadn't
an
planned that.
interesting question.
Yeah, I hadn't
No,
planned this question.
Absolutely. So, where emotional intelligence, body language, I think that if you take the time, for me, it took me, I worked on it every day for 3 years.
Yeah.
Once I realized it was a skill I wanted to work on. And really nothing. It was just like, it was still a fog for me. And then all of a sudden, one thing led to another, and I started to get pretty good at it. And if you practice it, you get better all the time.
Sure.
I think it makes you appreciate. One of the things that came out of that is I think people, they want to tell you the truth. Even the people that are lying to you, they really do want to tell you the truth. That there's something inherent in people because their bodies give them away. It's
Not
like,
the guy who hit me. He was trying to get away with everything.
Here's the thing. Did you read his body language? His body language might
yeah.
have been going, I'm guilty, I'm guilty. It might have been that
Well, he
way.
played the old man card because he was a little bit older, and he was I mean, I researched him. I stalked him. Just I looked everywhere for him, and I saw that what the business he was in and what happened to him, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, I'm like, yeah, I'm not buying it.
Yeah, I think it adds an extra, grain or a layer of empathy, so that you can really understand. I mean, if you think people are basically good, and at some level, when even though they're lying through their teeth, their body is just going, no, I did it, or I didn't do it, or oh my gosh, I am lying to you right now. And when you see that, and the thing with body language is you got to be clear. It doesn't you don't tell somebody when you're lying. It's just there are areas you're nervous about. And so, if you can do a little extrapolation on that. Anyway.
Yeah. And in all fairness, yes, in most conversations and most things, I tend to be open-minded, curious, and
well, that's what you said, childlike.
And except when I get screwed with.
Right. So that's a
listen,
trigger.
Yeah, I mean, I have a really long fuse. I don't get really pissed off. I mean, we've known each other for quite a few years. How often have you really heard me yell?
Right. No,
I
you
don't. And I get emotional about things, especially about ice cream. I get really emotional about ice cream, and toys. And it's, I am an emotional person. I'm terrible at poker because I wear my emotions on my face.
So I think you'd be very good at poker, because part of the problem with poker is you've got so much money in the pot. You begin to just, you make one bad decision after that. I think you could say, no, hey, look, cards didn't land my way. I'm out.
Okay.
You probably would be a
not
great, it's that control that makes a great poker player.
Well, there you go. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, it's a matter of, there's a certain point when nice doesn't, kind of nice doesn't cut the mustard. And then, my New Yorker comes out, don't start with me. And then as soon as it's over, I'm like, oh, that was lovely. Okay, next. So I have a different personality comes out totally.
Yeah. So I have to keep reminding myself, empathy. And then I do believe people are trying to tell. And I've got to repractice learning that and focusing on that at the conscious level. That really, if I'm seeing something in the body language, they're trying to tell me the truth. There is goodness in this person. They're not.
Well, and the other thing is taking the bait. If you are triggered, and we all have triggers, like one of my big ones. Yeah. one of my big ones is mansplaining.
Right.
Whoa, right here. And you are much better at it than you were. I mean, and you don't have to be a man to mansplain, and it is mostly men. Sorry, guys, it is. And that is such a trigger for me that I can lose my emotional intelligence and just be very reactive from it. And we have to know what our triggers are. And being interrupted.
Well,
they kind of go together.
Never mind. I was just going to
interrupt me and mansplain, right? You see how it works is when
I start cracking up my own joke before I could tell it.
He's his own best audience.
All right. So anyway, there you go. That's why I only do one show.
That's right. It can be really hard and take practice to be emotionally aware when you get involved in a difficult conversation.
So what would you recommend to me to improve so that maybe another alternative rather than exiting, or if I couldn't remind myself,
breathe. First of all,
what was that movie with anger management?
God.
What was the
watch that movie.
Word? What was the word?
I don't remember. Anyway, we digress.
Okay.
If you know what it is, let us know because we can always we'll Google it afterwards. Anyway, you can breathe.
Right.
You can take a step back, just say, you know what? I need to use the facilities. I need to come back later.
Well, at my age, that's pretty common.
That's every 10 minutes, yes. And so, yeah, that's a great excuse for you. And you can be aware, know your triggers, be aware of them, and ask questions.
Right.
You taught me this. The more questions you ask, the more your target changes.
Absolutely.
And understand that if you and another person are going into a conversation, so many difficult conversations are because of misunderstandings. And the more questions you ask, you may find out that you're actually going for the exact same thing and doing it a different way. And there's a misunderstanding. So you have to be open.
Right.
Exactly. And then don't let your emotions get in the way.
Oh, easy for you to say,
well,
right?
Yeah.
No.
And, make it about them. You versus
how would you do that? How would you do that?
As opposed to, you're an idiot because of this, because you did this.
By the way, that is not what I said. Okay. As a matter of fact, I didn't even say anything.
What? When was this?
Just now? You're pointing to me just
now. No. Yeah. And
you're just making that up, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not. Yeah. This is.
I just want everybody to be clear.
Nothing he has said in the past 24 hours. The past 24, maybe 36. Anyway, it's not placing blame.
Right.
So if you cannot place blame, it allows each person to feel good about it. And you want each person to feel good because once someone feels attacked, all bets are off.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true.
And you can say, I feel this way because this hasn't gotten done. So how can we put our heads together and figure it out, or whatever? Make it more open and not placing blame. You don't place blame.
Right. Makes perfect sense.
Help me understand this, or and the usual stuff. You guys have heard this before. It's ask questions and parrot things back, paraphrase, making sure that everyone is exactly on the same page, and make sure that there are no misunderstandings. My line, because I'm me and I like to keep things light, is okay, pretend you're talking to someone who's 5 years old. Now explain so I can understand, and it's a little more lighthearted and it kind of takes that edge off. And, even if I don't care, my ego is not such that I don't need to be the smartest person in the room. If there's a way I can get at least 80% of what I want, I don't care. So.
I was thinking about what you said. Maybe it was two instances in the same day.
That's what I'm.
And
that's
the
what
first
I'm
one, because I really like the guy and the ideas and the people involved with that. I really do like those people. And so maybe I was a little fearful. Maybe a little fearful we had a tough argument.
Yeah.
And we finally figured out there was a miscommunication on something.
See, it's a misunderstanding.
You could just tell, though, there was still a bad taste in the room.
Well, when people have visions about something, how they want, everything equal in a barrel, in a vacuum, this is how I I see it, and someone else has a different idea. It's like when you brainstorm,
Right.
you can't judge.
Sure.
And it's like when I just real quick, when I was writing my second cookbook, my idea was the first one's called "Does This Cookbook Make Me Look Fat?" and the second one I was going to do, "Does this cookbook make me look entertaining?" Because it's one
Right.
on entertaining. Everybody's like, no, keep the same title and do volume 2 and and I couldn't see it.
Right.
And I was super stubborn until I wasn't,
Right.
you know.
And then it worked out.
Right.
So you took good advice.
I did.
All right.
I
Very,
did.
very good.
So there you go.
Those are great suggestions.
And there, yeah. And
I think I just think it's something to work on. And I don't think I would say I had a major breakthrough at a point in my life on self-awareness and, what you do. And that helps people, hurts people, all those things.
Yeah.
And you have to work on it every day.
Yeah, and you
were
were actually great about coming back to me and saying, maybe I should have done this, or what did I do that had this reaction from you? So you are becoming really self-aware.
Well,
so that's
and
pretty
yes,
awesome.
yes. A lot of times we're on a time crunch when we're working together to get the podcast out and squeeze it out. So I have a tendency to be a little short on the explanations.
And I'm just short.
And on that note,
No, little levity to end the podcast with. I'm Rona Lewis.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler.
Thank God for that. This has been Biz-Souls. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Biz-Souls podcast with your hosts, Rona Lewis and Jeffrey Hansler. Did you have fun? Subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. Talk to you next week.